Kubernetes audit logs. What are they used for? How to set them up? How to monitor them with Grafana. Welcome to our channel. In this video, you will learn what are Kubernetes audit logs and how to configure your Kubernetes cluster to start capturing these important security events. Stick with us until the end for a step-by-step guide to learn how to start exploring cluster audit logs and monitor them using Loki and Grafana. Let's dive in. Audit logs in Kubernetes record everything that happens within the Kubernetes cluster, reporting on who did what and when. Audit logs help you spot when someone tries to get into the cluster without permission. They can be used to keep track of how resources are used. However, audit logs are not enabled by default in Kubernetes. So, the first step is to configure our cluster to start saving audit logs in a file based on the rules we will define in an audit policy. Later, we will configure a monitoring setup from scratch to send the content of these audit logs to Loki and Grafana. We start from a new Minikube cluster deployed on our local machine. Minikube is perfect to try new ideas and tools quickly and with minimal configuration setup. If you are new to the channel and don't know how to start a local Minikube cluster, make sure to check my previous videos. Once we have our Minikube cluster up and running, our first step is to enable audit logs in Kubernetes. For that, we update the manifest file of the Kube-Apiserver according to the Kubernetes official documentation. The link is in the description. Basically, we specify to the Kube-Api that we want to start using an audit policy defined in a YAML file to start saving audit logs that matches these rules into a file. We then have to specify where these files are stored and mount them to the Kubernetes API server pod. To keep things simple, we will be using the audit policy presented in the documentation. It is a good starting point that balances between security and storage space requirements. Pay attention here while saving your audit logs of some Kubernetes objects. For instance, you don't want to be saving the content of your secrets to a log file. Only metadata about this kind of object should be logged. Once you are done, make sure that the Kube-Apiserver is in running state again. If it doesn't, this means that we have made some mistakes while updating the manifest file and we should check it again. We log back into the Minikube machine and check that our logs are being saved into the corresponding file. Now that we are collecting audit logs, let's talk about how to export them to an external monitoring setup. Grafana and Loki are a great pair for turning our logs from plain text into something that we can actually visualize and even create alerts for some use cases. To build our monitoring setup, we follow the GitOps principle by using Terraform as our infrastructure as code to automatically deploy Grafana, Loki, Prometheus, and Promptel. The process is as follows. Promptel will read the log file from the Minikube cluster and send it to Loki for storage. Loki will be configured as a data source for Grafana. Later, we can use Prometheus to ingest some metrics that we can build from these logs. We start by defining Terraform providers needed for this setup, namely Helm and Kubernetes. Then, we create our observability namespaces where all these tools will be deployed. We start with Grafana, we define the Helm chart to deploy it on our cluster, and we specify the YAML file where we put Grafana configuration. For instance, we will define the password for our admin user. We do the same for other tools. Then, when we type Terraform apply command Helm, we kick off our monitoring setup in one go. I put the link to the GitHub repo for this project in the description if you want to give it a try. Now that it is done, we can check the pods and services that are deployed in our observability namespace. To log into Grafana, we use the port forward command to get access to the workload deployed inside our cluster from our local machine. Here we specify that we want to forward traffic from the local host on port 3000 to the Grafana service running on our Minikube cluster on port 80 in the observability namespace. Then we can use our browser to access our Grafana user interface. We log in using the credentials we put in our Grafana configuration YAML file. Once in Grafana, we check that our sources are already configured with Loki and Prometheus. Now, we can go to the Explore tab and see if we have audit logs coming in. And we have. In the next video, we will be using powerful Grafana features to turn simple log data to useful dashboards. Such dashboards will help us to easily spot security issues, track what users are doing, and much more. Did you find this guide helpful? Any Kubernetes security challenge you have faced? Drop us a comment below. We love to hear from you and may include your question in our next video. We have covered a lot today, from turning our Kubernetes audit logs to checking them with Grafana and Loki. If you like this walkthrough, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our Kubernetes tips. Thanks for watching today. Keep exploring, keep learning, and see you in the next video. Take care.